Okay, 1.4 is about comparing and ordering integers. So integers are the numbers that exist both to the right and to the left of a zero on a number line. Numbers to the left of the zero are referred to as negative integers, and to the right are positive integers. The traditional number line that we've learned since elementary school are the numbers that are the positive ones. And we know as we go to the right, those numbers get larger. The introduction of negative integers does not change any of the rules. If we go to the left, each of those integers gets smaller. If we go from one of those integers, I'm going to say negative 4, and I travel to the right to negative 2, negative 2 is actually larger than negative 4. Again, I'm traveling to the right. The same rule applies of larger. Another way to put things in perspective, since you're all from the Midwest, at least now you are, you can think of below zero. When the temperatures drop below zero, if it's a negative 2 below zero, it's darn cold. But if it gets down to negative 4, it's colder. It's a smaller value of the temperature. Okay, it's going down the thermometer. We have a couple other terms that we use. Absolute value. The absolute value in simple terms is just how much distance there is from that number, or from 0 to that number. So if my number was going to be the absolute value of 4, so 4 on the number line is here. It takes me 4 jumps to get there, so the absolute value of 4 is 4. Now, the absolute value of negative 3, start at 0 again. Going to negative 3 took me 3 jumps to get there. Okay, so how many jumps? It took me 3 jumps. The absolute value of negative 3 is 3. Now, another way to write this, instead of writing the words absolute value, is to make straight bars with the value inside. That also means the absolute value of negative 3. And then we can say the absolute value, or the distance from 0 to negative 3, is 3 jumps. Again, the absolute value of 4 is still 4 jumps. Now there's also the opposite. Opposite. And let me just change my color here so that we can see that. Yeah, I'll use white. So the opposite of two numbers mean you're going to, it's the same distance from 0, but you're going to use a different sign. Okay, so the opposite of negative 2, negative 2 is 2 jumps from 0, but I jumped 2 to the left. So the opposite is if I would jump 2 to the right, and I'd be at a positive 2. The opposite of 5 is 5 jumps from 0 to the right, but to find the opposite, I'm going to do 5 jumps to the left. So opposite is different than absolute value. So the opposite of 5 is going to be negative 5. Okay, now opposite does not have a certain symbol. Absolute value has a symbol to it, the bars, the straight bars. So it says evaluate. Oh, there's that word again, evaluate. There's the when. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to evaluate variable expressions. Now in this case, let me change back to the blue. It's a little easier for us to read. In this case, I want you, this is a special case. I want you to take note of this, that the variable y, is negative 5. Okay? Another word for negative is opposite. So our first expression says negative y, or opposite y. So I'm going to do negative, but then the y itself is a negative 5. So negative 5 would mean I would jump 5 to the left, but now it says to do the opposite, so I'm going to come back and do it to the right instead. So if I was going to say negative y, and I'm substituting it in by a negative 5, that would actually equal a positive 5. 5 jumps to the right, opposite negative 5. Okay, 17 minus, and there's those absolute value signs. So 17 minus, and in the absolute value is going to be negative 5. Remember, absolute value is how many jumps. You can't take negative jumps. You can only take positive jumps. So how many jumps is negative 5 from 0? It's 5 jumps. They don't care if it's left or right. So I got rid of the absolute values. They're similar to parentheses at this point. And I came up with positive 5. My operational sign is minus. So I have 17 minus 5. And 17 minus 5 is going to give me 12. Okay, so sometimes we have trouble with substituting in the negative. The negative goes with the variable. If there is another expression in, or if there's another symbol in the expression, that still stays. Let's just try a couple more of those. If I'm going to evaluate, but my x is going to be equal to a negative 4. Let's evaluate a negative x, or an opposite x. Well, x is negative 4, so the opposite of that is going to be 4. Or I could have wrote negative 4, and read that as the opposite of negative 4, and come up with 4. Okay, I could do another absolute value one. Let's do absolute value of negative 4, or the absolute value of negative x. Sorry, I should have put that first. Absolute value of x plus 9. So I substituted in the x as negative 4. Didn't do anything with the plus 9 yet. Absolute value of negative 4, how many jumps is it? 4 jumps. 4 plus 9 equals 13. And that finishes 1.4. We're sneaking into 1.5 here.